Good afternoon, welcome to the UK Column Live. It is the 18th of December 2014 and it's just gone 1:05. Myself, Louise Collins, Brian Gerrich and Nick are here in Plymouth, and Clive DeCarl is also here, but fortunately he couldn't fit into our massive studio, so he's upstairs on a Skype link.
Well, which we hope is going to behave itself. So it's a bit grey and chilly here in Plymouth. I haven't got a lot of weather. Well, there's a bit of windiness and rain in Swansea, and I'm desperately trying to see what. Dartford weather, dull, overcast and windy, 13 degrees Celsius. So it looks overall it's grey, windy, wet-ish and slightly miserable.
Just how you like it.
And that's how we like it, especially as it comes up to Christmas. And of course, weather is a hot topic because, governments are now blaming the world's animals for spoiling our weather and climate.
It's all the squirrels and beavers' fault, apparently. Methane, which is released by beavers, contributes to 200 times more methane than it did 100 years ago. And Arctic squirrels are warming the soil when they release carbon dioxide. Researchers found that burrows in Siberia were warming the surrounding ground. Therefore, global warming's fault is all down to the squirrels and the beavers.
And this is the Daily Telegraph. So we've got the state of the media in Britain in 2014. Are we seriously expected to believe this utter nonsense? I think it actually shows how desperate they are to finally try and convince the general public that global warming is real. I think I'm going to be remembering that for the rest of the day, that the whole problem, weather bombs.
Yes, weather bombs. They're going to do a cull now because that's probably the next thing that's going to happen. All the beavers are going to have to go, and all the squirrels, because it's their fault global warming is happening.
They've caused the weather bomb in Scotland.
Exactly.
So if it's in Siberia, they will be Russian squirrels and beavers.
Oh, and they'll be terrorists.
Well, first of all, it would have been Putin.
It's Putin's, yes.
For those squirrels.
Absolutely,
and
yes.
So we've live on the show, we've now got a definitive link between Siberian squirrels and beavers and international terrorism and effects on the whole world's
economy.
The global energy, climate and thus economy. Great. Well done, The Telegraph. We've enjoyed that one.
Yes, thank you.
Well, who are some of the ministers that are responsible for all this nonsense?
Okay, well, I wouldn't say they're responsible for it, but I can tell you what they are responsible. They're responsible for writing articles for a very right-wing conservative fringe club. Two former ministers are actually in the process of being slammed by Conservatives and other ministers because of their connection with the London Swinton Circle, which was set up back in the 60s by Enoch Powell supporters. And in newsletters, members make vile comments about immigration, women and gay marriage. Owen Paterson and Liam Fox are being asked for comments about their thoughts on some of the articles that are written in the newsletters for the London Swinton Circle, but both ministers said they were totally unaware that these comments had been made. So I had a little look into the London Swinton Club, and it was founded in 1961. Its original membership was composed solely of those who had attended Conservative Party training schools. The Circle holds regular meetings which are addressed by speakers on issues of interest of the Circle. And here you go, the Circle welcomed Dr. Liam Fox to its meeting in October. And in November, it had a Christopher Chope MP, and Owen Paterson was there on the 19th of November. But of course, they can't remember any of the comments that were made in the newsletters.
Well, we're getting indications, aren't we? We've got the secretive nature of Parliament. We've got the Privy Council, of course, which is literally privy. The public are not aware of what's going on. I think it's 3 or possibly 4 Privy Councillors can actually make a decision. And now we've got these boys' clubs full of puerile MPs, and of course they're across all 3 parties, Labour, Lib Dem or Conservative, it doesn't matter. So we come back to this issue of who is running the country. Well, the only reason they're there is because we have all been responsible in the past for voting for them at some time or other. Yeah. So perhaps we should be looking forward in 2015 as the opportunity for Britain to get rid of the Conservative, Labour and Lib Dem parties as a start to restoring law, order, morality,
Exactly.
and probably a bit of the truth.
That Swinton Club, though, you can join. You can become a member yourself if you're interested. For £20.
I don't think I will. I think
No,
I'll stick
okay.
with the British Constitution group. Actually,
Exactly.
that's what I think I'll do. Now we're going to hop across to David Our King Cameron.
I don't know who this man thinks he is,
Well,
but we know who he
We
thinks
know
he is,
from
don't
yesterday that we
Yeah.
were talking about, the government making these rulings.
Yeah, well-
we're talking government committees.
He went in front of the Commons and said that we should stand up very firmly against the Russian aggression that's taking place. And then he went on to remind Parliament that the UK led the way in Europe, making sure there were sanctions imposed against Russia over its annexation of Crimea in March and Moscow's alleged involvement in the Ukraine crisis. He went on to say, what the combination of the lower oil price and the sanctions are showing that I think it isn't possible for Russia to be part of the international financial system, but try and opt out of the rules-based international legal system. We should keep up the pressure. And in this respect, the interests of the United Kingdom and democracy do go further.
So here he is standing on the international stage, dictating to the Russians. We've got Britain descending into absolute chaos at home.
Yep.
We keep saying it, people on the streets, people with no work, people that can't feed themselves, NHS breaking down, all deliberate. And this man clearly thinks he is king.
Yeah,
And
I'd
I
like
think
to know what he'd say to Cameron if he actually was face to face.
Putin, do you mean?
Yeah,
What he
what
would say to
Cameron
him.
would say to Putin face to face.
Well, they
He
have.
just feels brave because he's got his little club behind him.
They were face to face at some of the heavyweight G20, G8 meetings,
Yeah.
whichever it was. And of course, there was silence because
Yeah.
Putin couldn't waste his time talking to Cameron. I mean, if you look at the difference of them, we might not like what the KGB represents, but if you look at Putin's background, he's a pretty tough cookie and
Yeah,
he's been through a
exactly.
system. And he's faced with this public schoolboy who was reputably called Prime Minister when he was a little baby.
Oh.
So presumably somebody knew that he'd been bred and groomed to be Prime Minister.
Yeah, but they're saying sanctions is actually an act of war anyway. A lot of the papers are reporting, and the putting sanctions on Russia in that way, that is an act of war.
Well, let's be fair. Why make it different? Because sanctions have been put against other countries, Libya and
Exactly.
Syria.
Yeah.
So I think Russia should brace themselves because, or the Russians should brace themselves because Mr. Cameron is after you. Well, maybe it stems back to this.
Well, of course, there's the leaflets are getting handed out around Florida with regards to the Church of Satan, and now a council meeting turned messy after the mayor and other councillors walked out after another councillor called Preston Smith, who's an atheist, opened up the meetings with a prayer. Basically for Satan, and the mayor of the town was absolutely disgusted. She walked out along with another three, and nobody available for comment.
So we're seeing
Becoming rife.
the Satanism increase in America, and of course, as we've said repeatedly over the last few weeks, we know that the British government absolutely approves Satanism because they've approved it as a religion on board warships. So there's no doubt, does it exist? It does exist. And the British government thinks that this is one of the primary religions we should be pushing forward. So something perhaps to reflect on over Christmas, that we know where this country is headed if we allow it to happen. Now, I'm just going to say live on air, I need to make a small adjustment to the order of news items just before we bring on our guest. If I can do this very quickly, we should be all right. And then we can bring on Clive DeCarle. Let's see, is this going to work? Yes, it is. There we are. And there's no licence fee, and our budget is less than 3.7 billion. But we can do it live on air.
Exactly.
Is he there?
Clive, hi. No, we can't hear him. This is
We're coming.
Who's coming? Hello. That's all right. We got you.
Hi.
You came on to my radio show about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and we talked about what we're about to talk about now, and blew me away, actually, this GC-MAF. Do you want to tell us a little bit about this research that you've been doing? And it's to do with cancer, isn't it?
Well, yes. I started looking into a product called GC-MAF. It was discovered 24 years ago, so it's been pretty well researched. And over the last few years, they've found a way to develop it so that one can take it as a supplement. It's made from milk, and it's a fermented product. And you have a billionth of a gram of GC-MAF in your body if you're normally healthy. However, if you're ill, and cancer is one of those types of things that reduces the GC-MAF in your liver, then your immune system goes down, and a number of natural body functions that would repair yourself during illness don't function properly. So by taking GC-MAF as a supplement, one can kickstart one's immune system. And why it's interesting from a cancer perspective is that it's a macrophage activator, and those essentially are the parts of your cells that eat cancer. It leads to apoptosis, which is suicide of a cancer cell, and reverts the cancer cell phenotype to normal. And what all this means is that in the clinics in Germany and Switzerland, where they've been using it, I think they've treated, I think about 8,000 plus people have been treated with it now, probably a bit more. They've been finding 80% reversal of stage 4 cancers in these clinics. Now, this is remarkable, particularly if you consider that stage 4 cancer, a lot of people who get stage 4 cancer, some of them are just, their time is up, they're going to die anyway. Then there is another group who are tired of life, they really don't want to live. So an 80%, and they call it in Switzerland and Germany, a cure, an 80% cure rate for stage 4 is absolutely unheard of. I don't think anybody's ever achieved that before. Now, it not only works to restore your health if somebody has cancer, but it's also working for things like chronic fatigue syndrome, ME, various things like IBS. And now something like 12 million people in the UK, and I think 3/4 of them are women, have got IBS. This is a very, very serious condition. And there's been a lot of publicity about two products. One of them is the GC-MAF, which we'll talk more about in a moment. But there's another one, which is a probiotic. And this probiotic is called Symprove, Symprove. And this was tested at King's College Hospital a couple of years back. And the results were incredible. With the test that they did, which was for a limited period of time, over a fifth of all the patients they had there were so much better that they hardly had the problem anymore. So that's equivalent to sort of 2 million people cured with a probiotic that costs £2 a day. Compare that to the cost of having half your bowel removed and a colostomy bag. I think £2 a day is pretty cheap. Then it's going to be a lot cheaper than an operation or pharmaceutical drugs to treat the problem. It is worth understanding that IBS is generally speaking caused by poor eating habits. It's where maybe you're not drinking enough water, you're not eating natural foods, and you're compromising the lining of the gut. So Symprove has proved particularly interesting, and GC-MAF even more so. I've been monitoring several clients around the world who've been using the GC-MAF, and one is a client of perhaps one of the most famous cancer doctors in the world, Dr. Nicholas Gonzalez in New York. And when this chap initially tried the GC-MAF, within about 3 days he reported back to me that he was able to have a normal bowel movement again, whereas this had been previously impossible. And other clients I've been following the progress of, with IBS, for instance, again, they found usually within 3 days they're noticing a difference. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen all the time, but how it runs is approximately 70% of the people with IBS are finding a complete cure. And as I say, I'm saying this as a reporter. as an English health practitioner, we're not allowed to use the word cure. Doctors have the monopoly on that. What I do and what other health practitioners do is we say, look, we only know about health. We are here to restore your health to normal. So I would recommend that everybody looks into GCMAF. For instance, between 15 and 25% of autistic children trying it are having a complete reversal. All their autistic symptoms are disappearing. Now, although there are clinics to give you GCMAF and to monitor you, which obviously would be the ideal way to take it, many people can't afford the £6,000 a week or €6,000 a week to go into the clinics. So GCMAF is available to use at home. And if you want to look into it more, there's a company called GCMAF Cure, that's GCMAF Cure.com, where you'll find out more information. And if you have a lung problem, you can nebulize it. If you've got a bum problem, you can use a suppository. If you've got, for instance, a systemic problem, cancer perhaps, they recommend injection, but it's an intramuscular injection, just like a diabetic would do. So it's not intravenous or anything. So a lot of people are treating themselves with it at home with absolutely remarkable results. And it is very important that people wake up to the fact that you might say miracles are happening out there in the world of natural health. But the manufacturers, they've had all sorts of problems. They had their PayPal account closed on them. PayPal, I understand, keeping the money that was in there. NatWest closed their bank account, and of course they're being heavily criticised in the press. But the results speak for themselves.
Clive, go on.
We're both, if I may, Louise. Clive, if I can just bring up on screen a couple of articles that appeared in the Mail, just to lock people a bit in a little bit to what sort of the mainstream press has been talking about. So this first one here is £2 drink that could ease IBS misery for millions is now available over the counter. So this was remarkable in that it was the Mail talking about Simprove. And here's the statistic down the bottom. 12 million people in the UK are affected by IBS. Now, you're saying that isn't quite true. You believe that it's people suffering from dietary problems. I'll come back to you 2 seconds. Let me just also bring this one up. And this is more typical, where we've now got an attack in the Mail, but it happens in other papers. Probiotic drinks don't do any good. So that one's quite interesting. And then so that people know the GCMAF bit that you were talking about, this is a screenshot of the website. So having said that, over to you, Lou.
Yeah, I wanted just to say to Clive, have you and Ancient Purity ever had anything happen like your PayPal account? I know there's problems with the websites because you're doing remarkable things. You're out there. So many people, who I personally know and know you, they've turned away from their, prescribed medications and that, and they're finding cures with yourself naturally. Have you had any problems, Clive?
No. Apart from ATVOD obviously wanted to close the Health Revolution shows down. No, absolutely no problem at all. Because again, I'm not in competition with them really, because I'm a health expert and doctors don't study health. So I don't see that we're in conflict.
And just going back to the GCMAF, you're saying about IBS, would these products, especially the probiotic as well, because it's quite reasonable, would it help people like we suffer from things like Crohn's disease?
Well, yes, because all those bowel diseases, whether they've got one name or another, all basically have roughly the same cause and can be remedied in roughly the same way, getting the good bacteria back in the gut, getting rid of biofilms. People who are taking cheap supplements, for instance, there's often magnesium stearate in those, which leaves a biofilm right the way down the gut. And there are ways to reduce that. So there's something called the mini-beat protocol, and that will dissolve the biofilm, and the biofilm can actually stop you absorbing the food. So you might be eating the best food in the world, but are you getting it into the cells? And so a combination of digestive enzymes, which allow us to completely fully break down the food if we have a perhaps a compromised health situation. And the older we get, the less able we are to make our own enzymes. So digestive enzymes can be terribly useful. Probiotics, in combination, you're putting back essentially your immune system. Your immune system lives in the gut. So you're restoring your immune system on a natural basis. And I'm afraid each time we drink chlorinated water or take a drug from the doctor, particularly antibiotics, we've destroyed our natural immune system that lives in our gut.
People in the chat room are talking about kefir. Now, I know you and Ancient Purity do supply kefir. They're saying that's just as good as taking probiotics. Would you agree?
Well, kefir is a probiotic in itself. Yeah. There are two types, milk kefir and water kefir. I prefer water kefir because it tastes nicer, and it's, even if people don't like milk, they can still use it. You can make it at home. You can buy it for about £5 on eBay, a starter, and it grows. It's like a pet. You can keep it at home, and you can make a delicious drink. Most children like it, and it only takes a few days, less than a week. You've got this drink. And then after you've made the drink, if you wanted to put a flavour in, like strawberries or something, you do a secondary fermentation just for one more day. And now you've got strawberry flavoured kefir or mango flavour or whatever you like. And I've had people who've had diarrhoea for 9 months, which is a very dangerous situation, report back to me that after 3 days of drinking the water kefir, their bowels are back to normal. So it's important to understand just how powerful this stuff is.
Super. I was just going to say, what you got coming up in the new year, Clive? Have you got any talks or new products out?
I'm hoping that people will book me to do some talks. If anybody would like me to come and talk to a group that they organise or anything like that, I'd be very happy to do it. I'd like to just say 2 brief things that are very important. One, quite newsworthy. Most of us are buying our supplements from places like Holland & Barrett, or perhaps one of the biggest companies selling supplements in the UK high street is Solgar. There are others like Nature's Way, Puritan's Pride, Nature's Bounty, Worldwide Sports Nutrition, Vitamin World. And what's interesting about those is they're all owned by the Carlyle Group, which is one of the world's nastiest weapons manufacturers. So if you want to buy your health products from an arms dealer, you might want to just think again. And the other thing I'd like to mention, perhaps the biggest thing I've found in health this year, other than the GC-MAF, is raising the head end of your bed by 6 inches. So if you put some books, or, as it's been suggested to me, medical books, because anything else you've got that's useless, you put those under the head of your bed, raising the whole bed on a slant. So now your head's higher than your feet. The health results of doing this alone are stupendous. Men who have to get up to have a pee in the night, they'll almost certainly find that will end. Blood pressure will normalise. Somebody told us once that lying on a flat bed was the thing to do. It isn't true. You want to lie down where your head is 6 inches above the body. And if you look at I made a video, which I think UK Column will be showing shortly, called The Science of Healing Sleep. And you'll be amazed at how many health problems are solved just with that alone.
Right. Brilliant, Clive. Brilliant. Thank you. If anyone wants to have a look at Clive's products and what he's up to, it's ancientpurity.com.
Okay, well, it's great, isn't it? When you hear this sort of stuff, it's optimistic. There's a way of doing things differently, and of course, the establishment desperately trying to close all of these remedies down.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we're going to come straight over to Nottingham and child abuse in Nottingham, and we'll thank one of our viewers for pointing out that the BBC East Midlands, suddenly came out with a flurry of reporting on Operation Daybreak. This is from the BBC report. It's got, I think it's 13 children's homes now listed in the Nottingham area as being affected by child abuse. And just about readable at the bottom, we haven't interfered with this image at all, we can see Operation Daybreak. Now, it's fascinating that at the recent court case of Beechwood abuse victim Melanie Shaw, those present in the court said that at one point the judge had effectively said that Operation Daybreak was a conspiracy theory. So we're not quite sure how that works with the BBC, but of course the BBC had not been reporting child abuse for quite some time. We phoned them a few days ago and asked a simple question.
Yeah.
Why are you not reporting child abuse, the child abuse in Nottingham? BBC said, well, we are, which clearly they weren't. Then there's silence for a couple of days, and suddenly this report comes out. Well, this man has come into the fore. He's Paddy Tipping. He's Nottinghamshire Police and Crime Commissioner. And what's interesting is he's been helping the police with some of their inquiries, just providing them with information, because this gentleman was himself involved with children's services going back a few years. So we just thought it'd be interesting just to have a little look at what sort of thing the BBC has been talking about. Now, at the moment, the jury's out on Paddy Tipping. That's probably an unfortunate expression. What I mean by that is that we're waiting to see how much impact this man can have on getting the Operation Daybreak investigation to move forward. Is he really going to be out there pushing hard for the victims of child abuse in Nottingham? We're still waiting to see. But let's have a look at the sort of thing the BBC's been up to. Now, this has been taken from the viewer who kindly sent in their analysis. We thought it was so good, we're just bringing it up on the screen raw, as it were. So the coming forward of over 100 victims was the second item on the BBC regional TV news last night, and that was 2 minutes 28 seconds into the report. East Midlands Today can reveal tonight that detectives on a major child abuse inquiry have interviewed their own police commissioner. Paddy Tipping has given a witness statement about people he worked with at a children's home in Nottingham. We've also been told more than 100 people have contacted the police to say they were victims. So the comment by our viewer was told by whom? This is a sop by the police to the BBC. So what we've got is the BBC repeating old information as if it was new. Everybody knows that 100 abuse victims have come forward. UK column, first of all, got the report of 62 victims from the police. BBC at that time were reporting nothing. The BBC then slides into a chummy brackets preemptive damage control interview with Tipping, talking about the very dim and distant 1970s. So clearly children aren't being abused today. Children haven't been abused recently. It's all back in the dim and distant 1970s. And he's on record as saying that he wasn't a regular visitor to Beechwood. Well, we're pleased to hear that. He claims that what his own police really wanted from him was a general picture of how the social services worked in those days and what the chain of command was. So this is a lovely soft report from the BBC. We've had over 100 children. That's just Beechwood. That isn't the 13 children's homes. And the police are, well, they're working out what the structure of social services was, and they are pushing to the BBC news, which is not news, it's regurgitating the line. So, of course, we're paying for all this, and this is how the BBC likes to show itself: smart, attractive, personable, and, of course, highly intelligent people reporting the absolute truth, or maybe not. So let's have a look at the man who's absolutely in the frame. Here he is, Jeremy Ball, and I had a little look at his... what is this? I always get this wrong. This is Facebook or...
That's no, Twitter.
Twitter, thank you. I'll get it right at some stage.
One day.
You can continue to smile.
There'll be a new one out by then.
So here he is, and look what he's got. Exclusive. Police investigating child abuse at homes in Notts have interviewed their own police and crime commissioner. Paddy Tipping has given a witness statement. I'll have more at 1 o'clock. So absolutely crowing on what was going on.
Is this today? This was done, or this is a while back?
I think that was 20 hours ago.
Oh, really?
I've pressed the button.
Oh, no, that's fine.
Now, so
did you get that today, I meant? Or was that like oh, wow?
Yes.
Okay.
So this is all hot stuff. And then let's just go through this. This is our viewer commenting still. The talking head outside Notts Police HQ, Jeremy Ball, social affairs correspondent, BBC East Midlands Today, then says, several men have been arrested, 3 of those men still on bail as suspects, and Operation Daybreak has now become one of Nottinghamshire's largest criminal investigations. Now, the red children's homes in the attached screenshot from minute 4:45 are the ones announced today, the 17th of November, as newly under investigation. The total, is 13 homes investigated in all, 9 still under investigation. So a lot of work to do before this investigation's complete. And the person has said, I think quite correctly, managing public expectations. And at minute 5, the talking head, Mr. Ball, is prompted by the studio anchors to say that if he knows anything new, he proceeds to read from a I am told that list from a number of authoritative sources, some of the things that the police simply can't confirm. So this is the BBC clearly acting as the spokesman for Nottingham Police. One of the rape allegations involves a man who went on to become a senior council official involved with children's homes.
Wow.
Okay. And comment from the viewer, Nottinghamshire Police are now considering a separate abuse inquiry involving children's homes. Sorry, that was a statement in the report. And then he gets on to this. There's been one extraordinary allegation that children were murdered and buried at Beechwood. The police were so worried about that they dug the grounds up. They didn't find any evidence to substantiate that. But I think it does show how seriously these allegations are being taken. Well, we phoned the BBC today to say, would Mr. Ball like to justify that comment in view of the fact that, as far as we're concerned, BBC, whether it's also a lack of professionalism, but misleading the public over the Nottinghamshire Police forensic investigation of Beechwood. So here's the statement again. So there's been an extraordinary allegation that children were murdered and buried at Beechwood. The word extraordinary to me here suggests that he's trying to say, well, this is outrageous.
It does, that's exactly, absolutely.
This is outrageous. Who could believe that somebody would murder children? And then he supports the police, but I do think it shows how seriously these allegations are being taken. So we're going to say we believe this is misleading because no full forensic investigation of Beechwood was carried out. Melanie Shaw, who was the child abuse victim making the allegations of abuse, suicide and murder at Beechwood, was never taken back on site by the police. So the police are saying that they had a key witness who was talking detail about what happened to her, what happened to other children, and, well, we're not going to take you back on site to show us around and point out where things happened. And at one stage, after the police supposedly carried out a full forensic investigation, the only hole on site was a 2 foot by 2 foot hole in one location. So it's a little bit difficult to see how the police carried out a full forensic investigation. And then what happened rapidly, of course, was that Nottingham City Council sold the site. So Operation Daybreak as an overall investigation, not yet complete. What does the council do? It sells the site, not to a detached third party, but somebody working in partnership with the council. It's interesting stuff. So what can we add to this? Well, we're going to add this bit at the bottom here, which is that since whistleblowing her own abuse and that of nearly 100 other children, Melanie Shaw has been threatened. She's had her son taken by social services. She's been imprisoned for 3 months, including solitary. She's been bullied, denied medical treatment, and now recently convicted of arson and branded as delusional. And the BBC has consistently refused to report on the suffering of this very, very brave lady, Melanie, and of course other child abuse victims such as Mickey Summers. So we're going to say that the reporting from Jeremy Ball, sloppy at best, deliberately misleading at worst, but of course the BBC clearly still not learnt anything from the fact that their favourite media paedophile Jimmy Savile was allowed to do what he did because they would not report accurately when people, and investigate when people pushed out warnings. If I just bring that back on screen, thank you, Nick. We better just end here because, of course, we did ask the BBC for comment. We were told that Jeremy Ball was having a day off today. Such a good report yesterday. You get a day off probably, and the BBC declined to comment. Okay, well, let's look at the reality. So let's remind ourselves that Nottingham City and County Council pay out £250,000 to 26 victims, but there's nothing to see. There's no cover-up, but this is how the number of children, the number of victims increased as a result of Melanie Shaw coming forward and saying what was going on. And of course, people are responsible, not organisations. And here's Chief Constable Chris Eyre. And remember that in the early days when UK Column started to report what was really happening, his police force that had failed to deal with the paedophiles was pretty hot on the mark, threatening the UK Column with legal action unless we ceased reporting on the Beechwood case. And we're going to come back with what we said when we originally used this slide many months ago. Why would a former vulnerable child abuse victim be frightened and under duress after whistleblowing to Nottingham Police? And there can only be one answer. What has the BBC not been talking about? Well, it hasn't been talking about this, and that is that Nottingham County Council had routinely destroyed files showing details of child sex abuse, and it took MP John Mann to stand up and ask what on earth was going on. So the BBC just can't get to grips with this. One of the feeble excuses that the BBC has used is that their legal teams are telling them, oh, we mustn't report because we could be in trouble with the law. So the police at the moment, is Operation Daybreak running? Well, the police say it is. Judges handling child abuse victims say it's a theory. Meanwhile, we've got glowing police websites like this with Superintendent Helen Chamberlain, Head of Public Protection, Nottingham. She's got all the latest makeup on. She's been wonderfully airbrushed to give us the impression that Nottingham police are nice people and they're really protecting the children.
Like it, doesn't it?
We'll leave people to make their own minds up, but we'll
finish on this one?
We'll finish on this one.
Okay. North Yorkshire Police have admitted that opportunities were missed to prosecute Jimmy Savile and former Mayor of Scarborough, Peter Giaconelli. North Yorkshire Police have apologised to victims, but said it had not been possible to pursue lines of inquiry that would have involved interviews with Savile and Giaconelli, during which they may have disputed the allegations. And basically it at the moment. They've said sorry, so we'll have to wait and see if Nottingham. See if Nottingham come and say it.
Let's put this in. You know, you've been raped, sexually abused, bullied, threatened, kicked, hung upside down by the state, effectively, in a children's home. And
you've gone to the police, you've reported it.
Your life's destroyed, you've never had a proper drug, you've ended up on the streets. You've been probably put into prison, solitary confinement, but not to worry because they've said
they've come back out after all that and they've said sorry, so that's okay. So well done.
Well done.
Well done, North Yorkshire Police.
But maybe we haven't got a problem with this because, well, what's going to happen with babies?
Okay.
I've caught you out.
You have caught me out. Okay, rules for creating babies from 3 people have now been announced. The technique that uses material from the mother, father and a donor woman is helping to stop mitochondria, which is a disease that affects energy function. In some cases, families have lost up to 7 children. So these designer babies have been basically created in a lab where they're using 3 forms of DNA, and there are going to be the rules on how this must be done are going to be released by scientists later on today. And here in the UK, we are the pioneers of this groundbreaking treatment. But I mean, this is just messing up everything, you know, with our messing up with nature. I haven't heard of mitochondria.
Yes.
So it's obviously not like a pandemic of it, widespread. But they have gone so far that scientists now can create babies from 3 people.
Yeah, it's pretty shocking stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, we've got 2 more articles to cover before the end of the programme.
Very quickly,
Over
these
to you.
ones, yeah. Well, we've covered it about the hypocrisy of the royal family. And finally, the Daily Mail are releasing pictures of William's family shooting. And the latest one is of his brother, which is pictured while he was on his gap year, shooting a buffalo. And apparently there are many spoils from royal hunting trips kept at Sandringham in the trophy room. A macabre collection includes stuffed animals and mounted heads. Big game on display is also put up. And the big game are rare rhinos, leopards, elephant tusks, and 2 stuffed lions. In all, there are 62 trophies on show. And the modern royals, the Duke of Edinburgh's body count is the highest. He is estimated to have shot a tiger, 2 crocodiles, and countless stags. What a nice bunch of people they are.
Well, they are, but I think we could solve the problem because all we need to do is let them loose in Siberia to shoot the beavers and the squirrels.
Start with the
and the
cull.
royal family could solve global warming in
Genius
a few
idea.
days.
Genius.
Meanwhile, the bookies are
The
getting
bookies,
nervous.
coral bookmakers have stopped taking bets that the Queen will abdicate this Christmas when she gives her Christmas message. Russia Bets yesterday afternoon showed odds go down to 10-1 to say that she would announce her decision in her Christmas Day message. So we will have to wait and see. What do you think?
Well, I think what we're seeing across all the media, the papers and TV at the moment, is that all of our institutions, key institutions, are being attacked and pulled apart. So we're seeing it happen with Parliament. We're seeing MPs being ripped apart, shown for what they are. They're going for the royal family. They're going for the NHS. So this is a deliberate attack by our so-called government on the country. And the aim is to demoralise people and disorientate them so that you get a sense that everything's collapsing around you. And what you've got to watch out for is the person who arrives saying, well, I am the person who's going to sort it out. So I think we're going to see more of this type of reporting as we come up into the election. The aim is to try and get us into a one-party state at the next election. That's my view. Of course, they'll call it a coalition, but if they achieve a single coalition, that's the one-party state. So a lot of work to be done in the new year, and we will require lots of help from all the good people out there who are now fully aware of what's going on.
Indeed.
We better end there because the clock is ticking. Thanks very much for joining us. And you will be back
In the new year?
in the new year. Meanwhile, Mike Robinson and myself will be here same time tomorrow. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Bye-bye.